Good evening and welcome. Please join us in a Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Good evening. My name is Howard Holly, publisher of Evolve magazine. I am honored to be your moderator for this Flagler Candidate Forum. I'm also honored to be one of the founding members of the Flagler Tiger Bay Club, our host tonight. Flagler Tiger Bay is a nonpartisan, nonprofit political club that does not endorse candidates or take sides on issues. Imagine that. Members of all political views are welcome and encouraged to listen and understand different perspectives on important issues in a civilized manner. To learn more, go to flaglertigerbayclub.com. Let me introduce the panelists who will be asking questions of the candidates. All of the panelists are members of the board of directors of the Flagler Tiger Bay Club. First, Gail Wadsworth, president of the Flagler Republican Club and former Flagler County Clerk of the Courts. Gary Walsh, attorney, and the Flagler Tiger Bay Club Board Secretary. Walker Douglas, chair of the Flagler Tiger Bay Club Young Executive Committee and vice president of Douglas Properties. And Teldra Jones, first vice president of the Flagler Democratic Club and senior supply chain manager at WebTex Corporation. They will be asking questions that they have developed for tonight. As part of our process, each candidate will have an opportunity to give a 1-minute introduction, followed by questions from the panelists. After the questions, each candidate will give a 1-minute closing statement. I want to give a big thank you. These things don't happen even though we're a nonprofit, there's still cost to doing these things. And I want to thank our Flagler Tiger Bay members who sponsored this forum. Chimento Dwyer Hurtle Grant, Douglas Property and Development, Innovative Financial Solutions, S.E. Klein, and Waste Pro. Now, I want to make a note to the public. Our candidates already know this. This is not a debate. Candidates cannot ask questions of each other or direct comments to their opponents. The purpose of this forum is to help our neighbors, our friends, our fellow Flagler voters to make an informed choice before you cast your vote. Thank you for participating. So let's get started with introductions for the candidates of City Council Seat 1. Only one of the two candidates is here with us tonight. Ed Danko had a previous commitment. We will follow Seat 1 with Seat 3. Will we begin with Candidate Jones? Would you please make your introduction?
Hello, my name is Sims Jones, and I'm running for Palm Coast City Council District 1. I'm the pastor of God's Love Ministry. I'm a retired New York City firefighter. I'm a husband and a wife. I'm a husband and a wife. I'm a husband and a father of 3 children. Lord have mercy. I'm also active in this community. I'm on a number of boards and I'm involved with a number of committees. My goal is to develop ways to relieve the tax burden on the citizens of Palm Coast, to bring down debt, to increase the involvement of the voice of the people, to lower spending, to ensure equal rights to all citizens.
Great.
God bless.
Gail Wadsworth will start with the first question.
Candidate Jones, I have read both your 2016 and 2020 interviews with Flagler Live and understand your priority. Increase business growth and relieve and/or hold the tax burden for our constituents. Does that mean you support the MedNex initiative planned for Town Center, and why or why not?
Yes, I do support it. And the reason why I support it is I believe that it's going to bring jobs. And it's also going to bring something that we need greatly here in Palm Coast, and that's additional medical help. I also believe that we have to do something to help our younger adults. You know, we do have a lot of senior people here, but we have a lot of younger adults that need jobs, and so that they can support their families and do the things that they need to do. So I am all for it because I believe it's going to be twofold. It's going to help us as a community, and it's going to help us with jobs and help out our incoming people, our millennials.
Thank you. Take a breath. Here comes question 2.
Well,
You have advocated starting a Palm Coast Police Department. Currently, the city is paying about 12% or $3.5 million of the cost of share of services for the city. Since you have previously stated the sheriff is doing a fine job, why would you change and how would you pay the startup costs plus the $15 to $18 million annual cost for having your own police department?
well, my initial information and reports that I got were incomplete. And I didn't have all the figures and the information that I needed. When I did my own research and I looked at one of our neighboring cities, I saw that it was almost $20 million to run a police force. And when I put that up against what we are paying now with the sheriff's department, it was kind of a no-brainer. I do wholeheartedly believe that a city should have its own police department. But fiscally, it's not fiscally responsible for the city of Palm Coast to start its own police department because it's just going to cost entirely too much. So my initial avenue on this was a little wrong because I didn't have all the facts. And one thing about me, I'm going to keep digging and looking until I get all the facts. And if I make a mistake, I'm going to correct it. And my mistake was I didn't have all the right facts. When I did, I changed my mind. And no, we can't.
Thank you. That makes me feel better. Question 3 for you. I should put it right here so I can look over the mic. If I'm elected, who is your customer? What does your customer think your primary job duties and responsibilities are as a member of the city council? Next part. What specifically have you done in your life to prove to us that you are prepared for a position on the city council?
Well, I'm on a numerous number of boards, and I work in a number of committees. And one of the things about me is I've always been involved with people. From the time I became a fireman to the time I became a pastor, and when I moved down here to Palm Coast, I just got involved with the people in the community. And I do believe I want to bring a voice for the people in the community. So I'm a servant, and I'm here to serve the city of Palm Coast. And so I bring a great range of different avenues and different ways of looking at things because of the different groups that I be a part of and work with. So I see a lot of things that some people may not see. But because I'm involved in so much, I can understand the different feelings and the different avenues and the different understandings that people want to be addressed. And I think that I would really fit in to help to bring those things to the forefront to make Palm Coast the best city it can be.
Thank you, Candidate Jones. You now have time, a minute, to make your closing statement, please.
Oh, sure. I love that. Well, I'm going to be very easy and very simple. I'm running for Palm Coast City Council. I'm not running for the President of the United States. I'm not running for the Senate. I'm not running for a party. I'm running for the people of Palm Coast. I'm here because I want to do something for this place, this city. And I want to be the voice for the people. I want to be a servant for the people. My whole thing is to be the greatest person that I could ever be And the only way I can be the greatest person I can be if I'm serving somebody else. I will bring forth a true concept of government for the people, by the people. Now, if I got my last thing, and I'm getting old. For the people, by the people, and of the people. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes for City Council seat 1. We'll now go to seat 2 and with an introductory statement.
I think your microphone is off, Mr. Hawley. Your microphone.
Seat 3.
Seat 3. Right. Good thing my mic was off. Okay. So we will now transition to City Council seat 3. And we will start with introduction from candidate Klufas.
Thank you. Good evening. First, I'd like to thank Tiger Bay for hosting us tonight. I'd also like to thank WNZF and all the listeners out there. My name is Nick Klufas. I'm a senior software engineer and a certified solutions architect. I've had the privilege of being your Palm Coast City Councilman since 2016. Over the past 4 years, I've championed initiatives such as creating a cell phone wireless master plan, which has resulted not only in expanding coverage, but also increased revenue the city receives from cell phone tower leases. I support responsible growth in Palm Coast, specifically in Town Center, with the formation of an innovation district, as well as the creation of an art district adjacent to UNF's upcoming Mendex campus. I fought to accelerate the splash pad construction at Holland Park because growing families need access to these type of amenities. Simultaneously, our council is focused on increasing public safety by funding additional Flagler County Sheriff's Office deputies and traffic officers dedicated to our city. All of this has been accomplished impressively while saying no to implementing new utility taxes and keeping our millage tax rate flat. Palm Coast has the second overall lowest tax rate of any city our size in the state. Let's keep it that way. I'm Nick Klufas, and I'm asking for your support and your vote on November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And now we'll have an introductory statement from candidate Manfrey.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you to the Tiger Bay Club for putting this together. You're very brave. I'm Cornelia Downing Manfrey. I've been a resident of Palm Coast for 21 years. I'm a native of Washington, D.C. I graduated from Fordham University with a BA in Urban Studies and French. I worked in corporate real estate in New York for 20 years for major Fortune 100 firms, then moved to Palm Coast, and currently I am a broker associate with the First Coast Sotheby's International Realty, and I'm also a CCIM, Certified Commercial Investment Member of the Institute. So with 40 years of experience, I would like to be able to look at Palm Coast and be happy of what is happening here. I've raised 3 children here who have all attended through the Flagler County schools and have gotten into major universities, NYU, UVA, Georgia Tech, and Duke University. And I come from a family of military and public servants. I've served in many community services, but I'm running because I got mad. In my work, I've been disappointed with the lack of friendly service and administration when people come to the city for approval and permits, disappointed with the lack of economic development for job creation, disappointed with the lack of interest in finding workforce housing solutions. I offer my background and service to the city of Palm Coast.
Thank you, candidate Manfrey. We will begin questions with Gail Wadsworth. No?
I'll take it, Howard.
Yeah, it is. Oh, okay.
Candidate Klufas, what do you think in the next 4 years will be the greatest challenges and what will be the greatest opportunities? And how is your background suited to see us through both?
Great question. I think the 2 biggest challenges that the city of Palm Coast will face in the next 4 years, one would be managing responsible growth. And by responsible growth, I mean diversification of our housing inventory for workforce housing and multifamily housing. But what's important is that we encourage this development to happen not inside of our arterial communities of Palm Coast, to limit the impact that they have to our existing communities. The second biggest challenge, I would say, is economic development. And I think the biggest opportunity also lies within these 2 challenges. I think Town Center represents our biggest opportunity for solving not only responsible development through diversification of our housing inventory, but UNF's upcoming Mendex campus will be a synergistic opportunity to create jobs, to create future for students that are graduating out of our high school programs today, and it's going to offer the high-paying jobs that can support the generation of tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Candidate Manfree, you've stated that the city of Palm Coast lacks sufficient revenue from commercial properties. What steps will you take to raise commercial tax revenues?
This has been one of my major points, is that 90% of the tax revenues, according to our Palm Coast Observer, comes from the residential people. That's a huge problem. Most cities have 30 to 40% coming from your commercial buildings and for that tax revenue. We have to be able to service the people that are coming in and applying for both development and getting it executed through the town hall expeditiously and timely. There's too much lag, there are too many problems. I deal with a lot of national developers and national retailers, and it is a serious problem in our city hall, and it has to be corrected in order to be able to speed up the type of people that want to come in here and build commercial development. It's critical, because we don't know what the pandemic is going to do for us, and are we going to lose revenue because people are losing their houses because they've lost their job? That is going to affect our tax revenue.
Thank you.
Candidate Klufas, you voted with the rest of your council to terminate City Manager Jim Landon. If that vote were to take place today, would you vote the same way? Why or why not?
That is a great question. And off the top, I would say I absolutely would. And I say that because the amount of experience and the amount of data that I had around that decision was not made in haste. I was elected into our city council. I worked with Jim Landon, and I wasn't confident in his ability to lead our city into the future of the vision that our council was defining. And I think the fact that it was a 5-0 unanimous vote represents that the information I collected, along with my anecdotal evidence of working with Jim Landon while I did, was enough for me to confidently say that I am very much comfortable saying that I would still vote yes to terminate Jim Landon today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Candidate Manfree, you voiced your support for raising multifamily density to accommodate the local workforce. What measures, if any, will you take to also make single-family homes more affordable in Palm Coast?
You mean in terms of making workforce housing available?
Sure.
Okay, so there are different formulas that have been applied to doing workforce housing, which I personally have been trying to get through county and city for 2 years now. I don't want to give my secret away, but there are opportunities out there to be able to produce housing that is in the hundreds rather than 200s. I would like to footnote that in June of last year, the median house number was 239. June of this year, 269. Anybody who's a service person making between 50 and 70,000 can't afford that. It is impossible. So we have to look for alternatives here to be able to bring in affordable housing and allow these people to have a great place to live with great work areas that they're servicing for us now.
Thank you.
Candidate Klufas, property values in Palm Coast and in Flagler County have not completely rebounded to their height prior to the 2008 crash. They lag surrounding coastal jurisdictions to the north and south. We know BedNext will bring growth to both Palm Coast and Flagler County. If reelected, what are your other ideas to bring positivity to our economy through your next term?
Absolutely. I would say that in addition to natural equilibrium that occurs in the unaltered marketplace, I think that we can incentivize businesses to relocate to the city of Palm Coast by accelerating our FiberNet incentives to these businesses. And I mean, we can subsidize their internet access through our FiberNet Palm Coast Municipal Internet Utility. We have our own internet utility. What we can do is offset the cost of their telecommunications bill every month, and other cities across the country are doing this. Sometimes businesses can spend upwards of $1,000 a month for data. We can do that in orders of magnitude less money, and that creates a multiplier effect instead of just giving straight tax dollar incentives. I believe that if we had a concerted effort and we continued down the upgrade path of FiberNet, that would be a very valuable tool to have in our tool belt to attract businesses, specifically technology businesses that rely on having high-speed, high-quality internet, which correlates to generally higher-paying jobs and the ability to telecommute, which is great for Palm Coast, to our area. And that's not only because I work in this space, but it's a trend across our entire country. And anytime we have League of City meetings, the drive is always to have available high-speed internet access because it helps across the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Candidate Manfrey, given the budgetary challenges that Palm Coast will likely face as a result of the viral pandemic, what areas of the budget would you be prepared to trim?
I would look seriously at all capital expenditures. And I think we have to go line item by line item, department by department. I do believe that we are going to see some setbacks, and we're going to have to brace for that. We must watch our expenditures. We have got to be able to get a handle on what the money coming in can afford to pay. Critically, we have to make sure that the city services are kept up to par for what we're providing today. But if we have a cut in revenue, we've got to look at those cuts. And capital expenditure is one of the items that I would address.
Thank you. That ends our questioning period. We will now begin with your closing statements. We'll reverse the order, and we'll start with Candidate Manfrey.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Tiger Bay Club. I've been fortunate to be here for 21 years. This is a lovely community. We have not seen a lot of growth, but we better be ready for it. Between Volusia County and St. Johns County, the amount of growth that is occurring there is going to sandwich us. So I hope to be able to preserve the nature that we have here, but when growth is coming, the commercial growth, the other subdivisions that will be coming, get them through timely, but keep them buffered and keep our city looking beautiful. I believe we have some serious issues being addressed. I am very concerned about some of the articles that have been coming out in the News Journal, and it's time for us to make some changes. I'd be honored being elected, and we'll have an increased emphasis of customer service, economic growth, and efficient spending. Go to my website, Cornelia for Palm Coast, to learn more and donate to my campaign. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Candidate Klufas.
Again, thank you for the opportunity of being here this evening and connecting with our voters. Palm Coast has a bright future ahead, and through creative thinking and applying technology, I believe that we can stretch the taxpayer dollar even further into tomorrow. It's our responsibility to do what we can with what we have where we are. But I'll be straight with you. To get there, I'm going to need your support, and I need your vote. Vote Nick Klufas for Palm Coast City Council, District 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That ends for City Council seat 3. And we will now move to City Council seat 2. We'll begin with candidate introductions. You might have noticed, if I hadn't said so already, they're in alphabetical order according to the way they are on the ballot. So we begin with candidate Alfin.
Good evening. I am David Alfin, your candidate for Palm Coast City Council. I am running for the District 2 vacant seat. I believe the City of Palm Coast is on the doorstep of great opportunity for growth and prosperity. I believe decisions facing City Council during the next 2 years will have a profound effect on residents for the next 20 years and beyond. I believe the upcoming election for City Council will challenge voters with one of the most important decisions made during the last 20 years since the city was incorporated. I moved to Palm Coast in 2012 with every intention of serving the community. I have enjoyed several successful careers and learned that so many people help you during your journey that you can never pay it all back. I have practiced real estate in Palm Coast in order to learn the land and meet as many residents as possible. I have studied our local history and government policy and procedure. It is my desire to balance my good fortune by serving the community on the City Council. I thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Kaufman.
Thank you. I join my fellow candidates in thanking the Tiger Bay Club for the opportunity to have the voters get a chance to associate a face and a platform with the name on the ballot. So thank you so much for doing that. I moved to Palm Coast in 2010, and I've lived all over the United States and traveled all over the world in my previous career as an international airline pilot and also as a military aviator. I spent a little bit of time doing systems analysis for Hughes Aircraft in my first career, which gives me unique insight into problem solving. I've also been a public servant, obviously in the military role for 20 years. I also served my fellow pilots in a labor advocacy role within our union for roughly 10 years, which brings me to my platform. I'm passionate about the city. I had a choice of living almost anywhere. My wife and I chose Palm Coast. It is a city that is enchanting, and the more you get to know it, the more you like it. It's unique. I aim to preserve the balance of growth, economic opportunity, and those things that make the community a place that we want to live.
Thank you. And finally, candidate McDonald.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me and having the opportunity to speak to the voters. I've been in Palm Coast for 21 years with my wife, and we have thoroughly enjoyed it, and we would like it to remain as most of us found it. And so what I am focused on mostly in my campaign here is two issues. One is taxes, and I know that's a buzzword that we hear all the time, but more specifically, one of the things that has come up consistently and has gotten quite a rise out of just about every taxpayer in this community is the franchise tax. I will work to make sure that there is no franchise tax by putting forward a referendum so that the people and the voters of this city can decide whether they want to have one, and they can end it once and for all, so we don't have to go through this constant recycling of politicians trying to bring that back to us. It's happened in 2012, it happened 4 years later, and I'd like to see it decided one way or another, so we, the people of Palm Coast, decide it. Thank you.
Thank you. So Gil Wadsworth, I am correct this time, right?
Yes, sir.
Gil Wadsworth will ask the first question of candidate Alfin.
That you do. Candidate Alfin. I spent some time reading about you, so I read the objectives you just stated for choosing to run for Palm Coast City Council. And since you've restated them so beautifully, I won't do it again. But since I do totally agree with you about what the city needs and what it's going for over the next 20 years, I have almost 4 questions. But the first one is do you support the MedNex initiative for Town Center, and why, sir, or why not?
Yes, I support the MedNex initiative. MedNex will be a higher education center spawning high-tech startup companies and attract healthcare support for businesses. Additionally, MedNex has the opportunity to balance the property tax placed on the shoulders of our single-family home residents in the city. Workers trained at the MedNex will also be tax-paying, service tax-paying buyers in the community. And I also believe that as a prominent healthcare hub, the health services that are afforded to our residents here in Palm Coast will be elevated. We will enjoy better and more doctors and better and more services as a result of this initiative.
Thank you.
Candidate Kaufman, without a record of having held elected public office, how can you assure voters that you will be an effective city councilman?
That's a very good question. My track record is at the national and international level, State Department associate in international negotiations, so on and so forth. The voters of Palm Coast don't know me that well, but I think they get an opportunity to get a glimpse by taking a look at those things that are public record, my record of service in other areas. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, Candidate McDonald, you have obviously been a critic of taxes in the city. In light of the rising costs of government due to COVID-19 and other issues, what specific budgetary cuts would you propose to ensure lower taxes while maintaining the necessary level of services?
Well, the necessary level of services need to be the core services, and that is the firemen, the EMS, and the police, which all do an excellent job here. I think that our money is really well spent with what they're doing. I didn't think that the idea of creating our own police department was a good idea, because what happens every time you do that, you have an overlap where either one, something's missing and you create a void, and number two, where you're overlapping the same service and you're paying for it twice. So as far as the taxes are concerned in the city, one of the things that I was really appalled at in 2019 is that the city moved $1.5 million from the general fund to a non-budgetary departmental fund for Mednex without any information on Mednex. And I can speak to you more about, Mednex and what I found, but I can tell you that last fall at the meeting that we had with Mr. Renner and Mr. Hudson, or Senator Hudson and Renner, okay, we had the county come out and everybody come out in full force on it. And what I did was I tried to find information. I asked the chairman of the Board of County Commissioners to give me the exact same information that he used to make his analysis to get behind it. And I got a call a week later from Jerry Cameron saying he had no information at all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Candidate Alfin, I'm sneaking in a two-part question. With your real estate background plus being a CCIM, commercial real estate broker, how do you feel about the competitive housing just being built, just being completed in the town center area? And do you see it and the housing coming to Palm Coast a pro? Thus, can't read my own writing, thus a tie into Mayor Holland's positive economic development plan, or a con to our community, and why?
I believe in a balance in housing options in the city of Palm Coast. The reason I believe strongly in the balance is because I care deeply for our fire, our police, our healthcare workers at the hospital, our school district employees, and also our city workers that work for the city of Palm Coast. A one-salary household finds it difficult to afford a mortgage and to purchase a home in the city of Palm Coast, especially with the appreciating value of our homes. So we need a balance of housing options for these people in order for our city to move forward successfully. We depend on these people for our health, for our service, for our lives, quite frankly, and we would be remiss if we did not have great options for these people to live here in Palm Coast and not have to commute in from another county.
Thank you.
Candidate Kaufman, do you support University of North Florida's Mednex project in Town Center, and why or why not?
Yes, I do. I support the Mednex initiative, and many of the reasons have already been well laid out. And I concur that diversification of job opportunities, it's high tech, it's got a lot of very interesting aspects going for it, including the higher education portion of it, as well as the type of people that it's going to bring into the community working in that environment, increasing diversification of the workforce, therefore the tax base. There's 28% of Palm Coast look like me or 3 years older than me at this point. We need some young folks. We need the type of people that industry attracts.
Thank you.
Candidate McDonald, we're going to go along the same lines here. What are your opinions on the development at the town center? Are you in favor or not in favor? In addition, what other areas of economic development would you propose either at the town center or throughout the city of Palm Coast?
Well, as you can tell from my previous comments, that I'm not a fan of Mendex. And the only reason I'm not a fan of Mendex is because I can't find any data. Show me some metrics on this. I had a conversation about this when it first came out with my daughter. She said there's a number of different ways that you can measure this. This information should be something that was readily available. And so, you know, that's what I'd like to finalize with or end up with on Mendex. But I would like to talk about town center. And the other key point that I'm running on is I don't want to urbanize Palm Coast. And that's exactly what's going on. You're talking to a guy who's been a developer his whole life. I've gotten thousands of COs in my career, and none of it single family. Okay, and I built, my last project was $34 million. I signed all the checks and balanced everything with our treasurer, and it was a low-rise building that I built. And so I don't see any of this coming into play in town center. I think it was misplaced, and we should be aware of the fact that that was brought to us by our Board of County Commissioners passing the ability for the Volusia County Housing Authority to float bonds in our community, and that's what brought it to us. And so all of those people, I went to them and asked them not to allow Volusia County Housing Authority to come and float the bonds for it, and they all signed up for it, every single one of them. So it's got to be stopped. We're going to ruin what we all moved here for.
Thank you.
Candidate Alfin, what are the primary job duties and responsibilities of a city councilman? And what specifically have you done that demonstrates you are prepared for this job?
So I'll answer in reverse order. I am a proud graduate of the City of Palm Coast Leadership Citizens Academy. I am also a graduate of the Flagler County Citizens Academy. I have spent my years here in Palm Coast studying the city and trying to meeting the residents and trying to make sure that I am prepared and understand how the city operates and, more importantly, what the city has to offer to the residents. The job of a city council person is to form consensus amongst the other council members, to form an opinion and a strategy and policy to direct the city manager who will administer the strategy for the city. It is a very important position because it is the face of the city government. So I take none of this responsibility lightly and look forward to working with other council members on a consensus basis.
Thank you.
Candidate Kaufman, given potential shortfalls in tax revenue, what areas of the budget would you be prepared to trim?
Oh, I'd echo the low-hanging fruit is and the biggest chunk of the budget is probably in CapEx. I had a conversation with the man who is sitting in this seat currently, John Netz, just earlier this evening. I walked over to his house, and I echo his sentiment. It is when we evaluate the budget, it's time, always time, to look at how much we have and separate out the things that are have to versus nice to, and I'm using John's own language here in that. And what happens in a time of austerity is you have to move that threshold around. There's have to have, there's absolutely have to have, and then there's nice to have, and you have to move that threshold accordingly. We're going to have to look at everything.
Thank you.
Candidate McDonald, in light of ongoing issues amongst the management and staff at the city, do you support the present staff and management team?
I would have to say absolutely not. I think that there's, as Mr. Brady, who ran for office, had a saying, new broom sweeps clean. I think that's what should be done at the City Hall as far as the administration is concerned. I have to tell you, I read the articles in the newspaper, and I can tell you that John Ruffalo and myself have been, and John's been the point man for this, and we have collected and put together probably anywhere from a foot to 16 inches of paper that we have brought to the FBI, okay, and made them aware of things that are going on here in this county and in the city. Okay, so they didn't just happen to come to the City Hall just for the heck of it. As you remember, they were here a number of years ago at the utility department when we had the utility, the public works director. He resigned on a Friday, very simply, I resign, and signed his name. There's something going on here. I'd like to get to the bottom of it. But what I'd really like to find out about is the millions of dollars that have been taken out of the enterprise fund and put into the city. All the time we heard John Netz saying, oh, the city has no debt, they have no debt. How can you not have any debt with everything that's going on here? It's impossible. So nobody's really diving into the numbers, and the numbers, I believe, are taking a look at the enterprise fund and following that money and finding out exactly where it went, and and take that data from there, or those facts from there, and then act on those. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our questions. We're now going to go to our closing statements. We'll change the order a bit. We'll begin with Candidate Kaufman, Candidate McDonald, and close with Candidate Alfin. Would you please begin, Candidate Kaufman?
Well, thank you again for the opportunity to address the voters through this forum. I am passionate about this experiment of our country and our democracy called self-governance, the ability to self-rule. I want to make sure that the voters understand these are nonpartisan offices up here for a reason. We represent everybody, and I seek the input of the constituents. To me, that answers one of the other questions. That's the customers. So if you're willing to come with me on this voyage of self-governance, please check my Facebook page at Bob Kaufman for City Council District 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate McDonald.
First off, I'm not a Facebook person. If you want to know more about me, you can look it up on the Flagler SOE's website, and there's information there on it. And I can tell you that I would like to see a lot of things in the city change, and I would like to see the city be much more responsible to the voters and to the people that come and speak. I have taken part in that a number of times. And I'm appalled at pretty much how poorly it goes for residents, and I understand why more people don't come and why people don't come back. So I am also a member or a founding member of Protect Palm Coast, and we started that to stop the city from taking our recreation land and becoming a developer with it and putting it into a MPD. And there's more going on with the golf courses, and we have to find a resolution for that. Okay, we can't be having multifamily and very dense multifamily being dropped into our golf courses in the middle of our existing neighborhoods. That's not why we came here. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Alfin.
In closing, let me thank the Tiger Bay panelists, the Tiger Bay sponsors, and WNZF for the kind invitation this evening. I believe David Alfin is the candidate for optimism and opportunity. I believe a focus on tax conservancy, public safety, quality jobs, and more healthcare services is our path forward to the opportunity our city has to offer. I believe in Palm Coast and will dedicate my efforts to serving the community by working together with all council members to prepare strategic plans and make policy decisions that favor our residents. I respectfully ask for your vote on November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to thank all of the city council candidates for your time as I started, but I also want to thank you for dealing with the time restrictions that we gave you. We know it isn't easy. You have a lot more to say than we gave you time to say, but I will say that you did an excellent job. Thank you very much for helping us inform the voters. Have a good night. And our listeners and our audience, we're going to take a transition. As we bring our mayor candidates up, you will see a sign on your screen, but I'm going to continue to talk. So those of you on WNZF, YouTube, or Facebook Live, we hope that the City Council questions and forum that we've presented to you added value to you. We hope that you will continue to learn as best you can about the candidates, and more importantly, that you vote, because that is really what all of this is about. Flagler Tiger Bay Club, as I mentioned, is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. We are open to membership, and we would invite you to join us. FlaglerTigerBayClub.com. So please go to our website and join. You can also go to our website and click to view the YouTube of the sessions from last night and also tonight. You can also click and listen to the WNZF podcast, and of course, you can go to WNZF podcast and do that directly. So hopefully, you can pass that on to your friends and your family who have not been able to do this thus far. So, we are back on air live. I want to welcome the two mayor candidates, mayoral candidates, and we're going to start as we have previously with an introductory statement, and we're going to begin with candidate Holland.
Thank you very much. I am Mayor Milissa Holland. I have lived in this community for over 30 years. I have raised my children here as well. I have served right in these chambers for 6 years as a county commissioner and have been proud to represent this community for many, many years in a variety of boards that not only include local, regional, and state. In the last 4 years, we have sustained 3 hurricanes and a global pandemic. We have responded quickly with public safety as a priority. That minute goes very fast. Does that mean it's done? Okay. I know.
When it goes like
that. And obviously, we've had some opportunities. We have funded our Sheriff's Department this year and in 2018 with additional deputies, making public safety a key priority of this council. We have also been able to achieve something miraculous in bringing the first university to the city of Palm Coast in the middle of a global pandemic and surviving the governor's billion-dollar veto pen. That will not only create greater access to health care, better job opportunities for our students, a feeder through Daytona State College, and that could not have happened with the support of many different stakeholders, including the legislative delegation that we're fortunate to have, the governor's office, the private sector, as well as our education system. Looking forward to serve you for another 4 years.
Thank you. Candidate Lowe.
Thank you. I too would like to thank the Tiger Bay Club for setting up this forum, and I was actually one of the founding members as well, although health concerns in my family took me away from it for a time. With all due respect, although my opponent, Milissa Holland, must treat the office of mayor as a part-time job because she has another boss, I am fortunate enough to give it my full-time attention. I am self-employed and therefore have no other boss to belong or to be beholden to other than you, the residents of Palm Coast. I also think it's important for all city employees to feel safe in their jobs and to have a non-toxic work atmosphere, which I believe is what's going on right now. A smooth, well-functioning, well-led City Hall will greatly improve the city-public interaction and enable us all to be proud to call Palm Coast our home. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll begin our questions. It will start with Gary Walsh for candidate Holland.
Candidate Holland, in your opinion, what are the two most pressing issues confronting the city over the next 4 years, and what would you do to solve them?
Well, I think we need to ensure that UNF MedNex sees all the phases come to fruition. I think we need to continue to formulate those partnerships strategically through our school districts, so we have a clear alignment with the pathways of careers that we're looking for, not only in healthcare, but in the business sector as well. And so that's going to take a lot of relationship building. I have those relationships. I've built those for over 20 years in local government. And I think that's given me the ability to be so successful as mayor and bring some of these projects to fruition. Another challenge, obviously, is going to continue to invest in our infrastructure. We have about 40-year-old infrastructure due to ITT putting in all of it at once, the streets and roads. So we're going to have to continue to build on what we have. We've started that process by creating a strategic stormwater master plan to address the drainage issues throughout our community. We've adopted a 10-year fire plan locally that will invest in first response, making sure our community remains safe in that 7.5-minute response time. We're able to do that because we plan well, and communities that plan well spend well, and I'm very proud of the work of the City of Palm Coast.
Thank you.
Candidate Lowe, what is your stance on affordable housing in Palm Coast to accommodate families living off minimum wages with low or no credit rating?
Well, obviously, it would be difficult to get a loan if you had low or no credit rating. What I think really should be looked at, though, is setting up affordable housing, meaning we should be able to set up a gated community somewhere out of existing neighborhoods, use smaller lots and smaller houses that won't interfere with existing property and interfere with those property values, and then come up with some type of subsidizing program in order to get people into those homes. I think that that's something we really could look at, as long as it doesn't interfere, like it would be a gated community in a different location that doesn't interact with existing property.
Thank you.
Candidate Holland, questions have arisen regarding ethics and conflicts of interest relating to your service in the city government. Please describe why you believe you have acted appropriately under the city's conflict of interest policies and what you believe should occur in the future if you are reelected to assure your effectiveness going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. The city entered into a relationship with a local company that I am employed by. I recused myself from the vote. Our city attorney had vetted that extraordinarily, very deeply, had worked through all the channels to ensure there was no impropriety. This was a contribution from a local company that employs over 60 people in this community, as well as over 30 interns. We're very proud to support local companies in this community. So this was discussed in over 6 different public hearings. The public had weighed in every single step of the way. This was a very transparent process. This was done absolutely in the sunshine. Again, I'm very proud of the solution of Palm Coast Connect that has allowed our city to operate completely virtually during a global pandemic, keeping both our residents safe, our employees safe, over 500 employees safe, and saving the taxpayer dollars in over $750,000 to date.
Thank you.
Candidate Lowe, there have been questions and concerns about your past. How will you ensure conflict or ethics aren't a future concern, which could hamper your effectiveness while in office?
Well, first off, I'm not really familiar with what you're talking about, although I have seen a hit job program out there. There's only one opponent to me, so I'd have to assume it came from somewhere in that area. And a lot of the information that I saw was either skewed, lies, or incorrect. And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole and try to, in 90 seconds, explain why it's all lies, incorrect, and skewed. So what we would have to look for is today. The information you're talking about happened some 20 to 30 years ago and was skewed around. There's nothing current in my life that would interfere with ethics or any other thing that allows me to function properly.
Thank you.
Candidate Holland, you've indicated that roles in governing evolve over time. Do you see any changes that need to occur in the relationship between the city and the sheriff's office as the contract comes up for renewal next year, in terms of providing things along shared services, mental health issues, or other nonviolent aspects, all of which are being discussed throughout the country at this time? And then what would be the budgetary results? What would be budgetary issues that result from this?
Well, first, I'd like to really congratulate Sheriff Staley on his leadership and the men and women that work within the Sheriff's Department that have kept crime so low. 95% of our residents last year in the National Citizen Survey said they feel safe in their neighborhood. So it's working. And I think we have effectively communicated that both with the Sheriff's Department and our residents on some of the strategies that he's been able to institute over time. With that being said, it is a new sheriff. He's been here for 4 years. He's running again and hopes to serve. And I've asked for the reopening and rewriting of the complete contract. I've done that because that contract was written over 15 years ago. And the fact of the matter is, a lot has changed over time. Technology has advanced, different ways to tackle crime. In light of the issues of access to health care and mental health, I've been working closely with Flagler Connect out of Flagler Hospital, met with them on several different occasions. They are bringing forth a solution that will offer not only greater expansion of services for mental health, but coordination of different existing services for our residents to take advantage of. So I think this needs to be collaborative. I think it needs to be community-driven, and I think it's a conversation I look forward to having both on the city level, the county level, and the community level, and I think it's something that I can achieve due to my background in this community.
Thank you.
Candidate Lowe, if you were elected mayor, would you continue the MedNext program? If not, could you share some of your plans? And if so, why is it good for the community?
I would certainly consider continuing the MedNext program. I think it's a good program. My concern all along with it has been the use of $1.5 million out of the budget during a downturn economy. What I have not seen on it is a cost-benefit analysis or return on investment for that $1.5 million. What I have done is gone out and reached out to some financial advisors and found that there are actually ways that we could protect that $1.5 million of precious taxpayer dollars during this time and be able to move the project forward without risk to our city. And yes, I support the project. I don't support the way that it has been gone about, but let's move forward with it. I would gladly pick up that baton and run with it.
Candidate Holland, you get to talk about economics now as well. Obviously, you are in favor of the MedNext project at the town center, but what other areas of economic development do you see, and what other initiatives does the city have to make in terms of continuing to move forward on the economic development front? And I'd like you to also then to, what areas do you perceive as budgetary problems going forward, and whether they can be resolved through an increase in revenue collections or a reduction in expenses, and be specific.
Yeah. Well, let me address the UNF MedNext concept, because I think for our residents to truly understand the value and benefit, that will provide an anchor to our community that currently doesn't exist. When I spoke about our education system, we have an extraordinary education system in Flagler County. This will allow the flagship program to be a seamless transition into our Daytona State College, where our students will be able to graduate from dual enrollment with zero debt, be automatically accepted into the University of North Florida for a bachelor's degree program in a variety of healthcare jobs. This is not just nursing, this is a variety of healthcare jobs. They will be partnered with a hospital in the region. They will be offered a job upon graduation, a guaranteed job, a high-paying job. That means they can afford to hopefully come back and buy a house here in our community, spend their money here, and it will allow some secondary industries to also look at our community, because we're driving that whole concept, this healthcare, medical, technology, innovation hub within our innovation district. So we are strategically partnering outside in the region and taking advantage of different companies that could also partner with the concepts and research opportunities that UNF MEDNEX will afford to our community. As far as the budgetary constraints, I will say Palm Coast has done a great job in ensuring that through storm events and COVID, that we have an emergency management fund, that we've been able to recoup those funds when we've advanced them in advance of storm debris cleanup and those sorts of things. And so we have a healthy reserve. Those funds will be able to take down and be very wise in our expenditures when opportunities avail themselves. I agree in public-private partnerships. That's what MEDNEX was, and I'll continue to drive those here.
Thank you. For those of you on the radio, we've exceeded our programming time, but we will continue with closing statements. You're listening to WNZF, News Talk Radio, 1550 AM and 94.9 FM, Bunnell, Florida. And so now we will begin with our closing statements.
Mr. Holly, I have one more question for candidate Lowe.
Oh, did I jump ahead again?
Yes.
Oh, that's why you were going like that. Okay, please.
Candidate Lowe, we live in a coastal community which is affected by changes in our climate. What can we do to engage and educate the public on ways to protect our local environment?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because part of my background, I actually invented and patented a process to cultivate live coral to restock coral reefs around the world, and built the first coral cultivation facility in the Caribbean. I also was in National Geographic for a project of actually restoring a reef that was damaged after it was Hurricane Lenny in 1999. So I'm very familiar with environmental change and the devastating effects that it could have, whether it's man-made, natural, or whatever. We do have issues that we need to look out for. One of the things which is quite interesting is that a little while ago, I had to rebuild the dock, my boat dock behind the house. And I had asked to have it raised up 1 foot so that rising water and so forth wouldn't always swamp over the top of the dock, which is a problem that people have in Palm Coast. I was denied to be able to raise it up. So the nor'easter that we just had this past weekend, the water came over the top of the dock, and of course it raised some of the pilings out and damaged the dock. This dock is 5 months old. I think that we need to revamp, relook, and look at what we can do to positively offset these changes, because there's no sense to build a dock behind your house for several $1,000s and watch it get destroyed 5 months later because somebody wouldn't listen to when we could raise it a foot and save all of these issues.
Good. Thank you. All right, so we're now into closing statements, and we will reverse the order, and we will start with you, Candidate Lowe.
Thank you. So my name is Alan Lowe, as you know, and I moved here in 1983. And as such, I have actually worked in Palm Coast for 37 years, probably longer than most of the people have lived in Palm Coast. This gives me a unique insight into the public perspective of business and city interactions. As I mentioned earlier, I have 2 patents in my name, not just one for coral propagation, but I have another one for mechanics. I think outside the box. I also have a new style spacesuit that I am working on. This allows us to look at industries, or allows me to look at industries that I understand, such as aerospace, since we're just down the road from NASA, and allows us to look at a rail spur that's out in the Hargrove Industrial Park, bring the rail spur in, bring industry here, and become a railway between us and NASA. I started the campaign about 4 months ago, and I have knocked on over 1,000 doors and met with dozens of business owners. And what I've heard wasn't good, but it did serve to strengthen my resolve. The public is demanding transparency, economic development, open leadership. But most importantly, the public wants to be heard, and you cannot be heard behind the closed doors of City Hall. If I am elected mayor, I will open those doors. I will bring the voice of the people into City Hall, and we will become a community again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Yes.
As mentioned at the beginning of my opening comments, I have been very proud to represent this community for several years. I've gotten to know many of our residents. We are now over 90,000 residents. It's important that we do understand what brought residents here. Palm Coast is a special, unique place, and I want to make sure we keep it that way. I want to make sure that the choices the residents made to come here are those promises that are kept. I want to make sure that we have economic opportunities for the next generation. I want to make sure there's greater access to health care, and in working with several different CEOs, different hospital systems, I know we can make this happen. The future is bright in Palm Coast, and the opportunities are right around the corner. This needs and requires consistency and leadership. I look forward to the next 4 years in working with Representative Renner, Senator Hudson, who have both endorsed me in my race for mayor, and they've done that because I've worked closely with them. My years in Tallahassee as a lobbyist has allowed me to navigate a very complex system to bring dollars back home to Palm Coast successfully, which we did with the FEMA reimbursement dollars. I will continue to drive public safety as a priority. I will continue to look out for the best interest of our residents, over 90,000 of them, and I look forward to a bright future. Thank you so much, and please consider voting for me again, Milissa Holland.
I want to thank our mayor candidates for being here today. It is very much appreciated. I want to also give a thank you to our panelists for their great questions. Gail Wadsworth, Gary Walsh, Walker Douglas, and Teldra Jones. You did excellent. A special thank you to Ed Fuller for facilitating all of the candidate coordinations that were required to accomplish this, and to Jake Scully for his time management, and also to the Flagler Tiger Bay board members. Without them, we don't make a decision to move forward with this. To Greg Davis, our president, our illustrious leader, thank you as always for your leadership and support. And to our Flagler Tiger Bay members who sponsored this forum, Chimento, Dwyer, Hertel Grant, Douglas Property and Development, Innovative Financial Solutions, S.E. Klein, and Waste Pro. If you're interested in learning more about Flagler Tiger Bay Club, visit our website. You try to say it. At flaglertigerbayclub.com. We're not meeting face-to-face right now, but we are still meeting virtually with the same array of interesting and can't-miss speakers. Thank you to our audience for joining us tonight. Our goal is that this is helpful and informative to you in deciding your vote. And so now it is on you to vote. Stay safe, and thank you.